So, I know what you're all thinking. After that exciting adventure last time, what if we went up a third tower?
Also, what the hell was that? That portal was not happy. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, the game's rendering is not very happy when it has to show both portals through the portals.
I mean, okay, yeah, I can imagine. Like, actual portal-based video game Portal had to go to quite some lengths to deal with its rendering problems. Hell, there is an enormous amount of fascinating material that was just written about the enormous amounts of game mechanics bullshit that is going on in Portal. Like the bubble of slightly inaccurate physics that surrounds each one. And then this game thinks it's just gonna have portals in it.
I mean, to their credit, they made it work in a very ham-fisted, you can only do portals where I tell you you can do portals kind of way.
And really, for a game like this, it's probably the best case scenario that you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's sufficiently restricted that it can be designed, and it's still all very lock and key compared to actual Portal, in which the mechanic was freeform and designed to feel like you're cheating all the time. Which is a really hard sensation to nail, by the way. That's some mechanical application, like high-level stuff, to get the player to feel like that. And this is not that.
Yeah, one of the things I will say about this area is that it's one of the few parts of this game that is super explicitly, this is a puzzle area. Like, also, this is some incredible collision.
Nice. Yeah, just don't mind me, just got a big giant fucking rock spike through my foot. I'm just gonna check my watch.
Yikes.
But yeah, like, one of the things about this game is it very, very rarely does pure puzzle areas. And, like, even the bits, like, there's been maybe, other than, like, the little puzzle fights against the Guardians, there is almost everything about this game is very, like, they're generally a lot better about mixing in combat rooms, and this area is just non-stop combat, or non-stop puzzles, and it's on an engine that doesn't really work.
It's not a puzzle game, is it? Like, puzzles is playing with fire to put puzzles in your games at the best of times. I think I brought this up before, and I think it was the desert. I forget. The gist of it was that you don't want too many actual puzzles in your action game, because puzzles are paced completely differently to action games, and if you put puzzles that require literally any thought, then people will get stuck, and everyone who does get stuck will hate your game. Contrast with an actual puzzle game where people come in expecting to get stuck, and that's part of the game, and the pacing can account for it.
Like, again, I hate keep having to go back to God of War, but like one of the most frustrating parts about God of War was like the actual puzzle parts of it, because it's like the game had a really nice flow when you were just going through like action, killing dudes, and just like exploring the areas of like its set pieces, but then it just slams the brakes on to, like, you know, have you do a puzzle and try to figure out, okay, how do I get in or out or progress through this area, and it just absolutely, like, just T-bones the flow of the game completely.
Yeah, puzzles are dangerous. like new God of War also has puzzles, but it also basically allows you to invalidate them because, you know, as in many games in which you have literally any kind of helper character, if you hang around for long enough, the boy will just eventually tell you the answer. Subtly, of course. They can't have boy outsmart his father, but they get the point across. They usually play it for some pretty good dialogue as well, because that's something that God of War kind of learned how to do, is play situations for amusing dad-boy dialogue.
Good job.
I will solve this by myself, boy. I do not require your assistance, boy. And so on.
But I mean, even if you stick to games like Zelda and Okami, where you know this game is taking the majority of its inspiration from, even those games almost never go into that big puzzle. Like, if they do, it's in an optional area. You know, it's, hey, here's a place that you can go to put together all of your toys and solve our puzzle, and we'll give you a heart piece.
Yeah, like there's a big difference between any kind of exploration set piece that requires you to think and a puzzle. Like, sometimes you just have to think in order to do stuff in video games. It happens. But that's not the same as having a puzzle that you can be stuck on for ages and like have to go away and just go and make yourself a sandwich and then just suddenly have an epiphany out of nowhere and realise how to solve it. There's two very different kinds of beast. I don't think it's actually possible. I mean, maybe someday some random indie is going to completely prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is impossible to mix, like, capital P puzzle games with literally any other kind of play. It just doesn't gel with anything.
About the best you could do is you could put it together with a kind of visual novel type thing, but even then you're going to get people who are like, I'm here for the plot, and then they get mad because they've got to, and then you have the Professor Layton problem, basically.
I guess one definite weird part of this is dealing with specifically mystery plots. Mystery plots in the vein of mystery shows that used to be books or TV shows but are now video games. Because it used to be the case that you'd have like the Golden Age Agatha Christie murder mysteries, and you could just keep reading or keep watching, and you'd see it all solve itself out eventually. And now the last bastion of the classic Golden Age mystery style is Phoenix Wright and Danganronpa, which are both video games, which both require you to piece everything together yourself, to take the whole story and pick it apart one contradiction at a time yourself. The game will not progress until you've done it. So there is that.
Like, the second and third, like, Phoenix Wright especially, like, kind of got pretty bullshitty in, like, their leaps in logic of how, like, forcing you to solve stuff. Like, hell, even the end of the first game that, on the like, I think the DS port of it, like, Rise from the Ashes, yeah, that one had some amazing bullshit logic leaps in it.
It's that combined with the fact that it expects you to do it in order, so it's not always possible to go through it in exactly the correct order, but you can also sometimes just realise things in advance, because the games, they play fair, they don't cheat, so you can just figure stuff out, and then you think, oh, I figured something out, I'm going to present it as evidence, and then, no, that's not how you're supposed to do it. I must penalise the defence, Mr. Wright.
Yeah, because it's still telling a linear story, and it's not the right time to whip that thing out.
Like, the later games got a bit better at it just lets you restart, because they understand that, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to put up this like token resistance to your attempts to unravel our plot. But if you become obviously stuck, then it will just give you a nudge now. The later games are much better about this. So, like, puzzle plots can kind of be a thing. And yet, even in those games, it's still just, here are the puzzle bits, and here are the bits that aren't puzzles, which in Phoenix Wright is hardly anything, and in Danganronpa it's like every other thing that you have to do is just a little weird minigame. And those can be of variable quality. Looking at you, Hangman's Gambit.
I don't know what you're talking about. Danganronpa is full of nothing but the highest quality gameplay experiences.
Quite. Absolutely no playable part of Danganronpa has ever been objected to by anybody on the internet. Especially not Hangman's Gambit. Especially not improved Hangman's Gambit. They improved it, they just made it better. Which made people like it more.
Gonna go with the citation needed on that one.
There have been other puzzle games that have, like, very gently dallied with concepts. Like, I don't even, I'm not fully sure where I'm even going with this, but The Witness is a puzzle game that had a very kind of sort of had engagements that you could have with that game that weren't solving its puzzles. Although all of those things were kind of also puzzles, so this isn't really the astonishing, shining example that perhaps I thought it was. Like, my point is, it's really fucking difficult to mix puzzles with anything. Like, it's hard.
I think part of the reason that I think it falls so flat here in this dungeon is that the portal mechanic does not really have any sort of major combat use. Like, they play around with it a little bit where, like, oh, you have to use the portals to get on top of the robot, or, you know, stuff like that, or you know, you have to use the portals so that you get a boost that lets you dodge an otherwise unavoidable attack. But by and large, there is almost nothing that, or at least that they figured you could do with portals as far as combat goes.
Or, like, even just, like, combining it with, like, other, like, gameplay elements, like, I think, like, what you just, like, did there, like, about a minute ago, like, just throwing bombs through a portal, that's about it. Like, they don't allow you to do stuff like, okay, like, line up a portal so you're in, like, range of a hook shot, and then you, like, have the hook shot through the portal, and that's how you start your, like, an otherwise inaccessible, like, hook shot sequence.
Yeah. It's like, it feels weirdly underapplied. And at the same time, even when you've got a straight puzzle that isn't combined with anything else and isn't trying to be, it can also just sometimes just not be a very good puzzle. Like, combining puzzles with anything is a problem, and puzzle difficulty is a whole other problem.
Yeah, like, even, like, you know, you were talking about, like, applying it, like, into combat, like, these two jackasses here, like, you could have probably done a sequencer, like, you know, if you were smart about it, where, like, okay, like, they'd put, like, portal spawners or, like, portal locations on, like, a couple of those pillars that are out there just floating in nothingness, and if you were smart about it, yeah, you'd spawn a portal on one of those, and then you just pop one open on the ground, and you just try to, like, you know, guide these idiots into one of them, and just, like, have them fall off into the abyss, and, like, not fight them at all.
Like, there was some fighting, kind of, sort of, a little bit, in actual Portal. And it was all about that kind of trickery. where you're turning the environment and the enemies against themselves by thinking with portals.
It's like, yeah, you open a portal like on a wall, then you pop another portal open beneath the turret, and the turret falls through the portal and just like winds up on its side, just completely, utterly like neutralized.
It's all very clever and needs to be designed.
Like I said, this game just doesn't have any of that, which is another reason why I think this is far and away the worst part of the game. It just, like I said, it goes on way too long and just doesn't have any real ideas of its own. Because, like, almost every other time that they have done something like this, it has had that little, yeah, you know, this is a cool, you know, here's our take on this. Here's this cool thing that we're doing with it. And that's just not here.
It's also not really particularly obvious what we're working towards a lot of the time. Like, it's one thing to have a big set piece in one room that just has a clearly defined get up here. And maybe it's a great puzzle, or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just the kind of puzzle where you just do the one thing that you can do, and then you do the one thing that allows you to do, and repeat until you open the door. But even then, when you chain the whole thing together, it will at least deliver that little buzz to your brain.
Like, this sequence here, I'm assuming, like, is at least vaguely clever if it's gonna do the thing that no, I guess not. Oh, you probably need to, yeah, put the portal on there and then lower it in the water so that you can then drain it. But still, like, this is an actual smart use of the portal mechanic.
That's got that little bit of originality. Of course, when you start getting too good with one of your puzzles, you ironically can run into this other problem in which your puzzles can be inconsistent in how clever they are, and players will be like completely blindsided by having to actually be clever, even if your clever puzzle is actually good. If it's surrounded by terrible puzzles, it will make it harder to players, because like priming players psychologically is a weird and arcane science that Valve got specifically very good at, but it's full of pitfalls. Puzzles are dangerous. Puzzles are like should be like a Class A video game design drug. Should only be allowed under very specific circumstances. I think video games have ruined themselves by getting too deeply hooked into puzzles.
Yeah, this is your brain. This is your brain on puzzles. Angry crashing noises.
This is your game design team on puzzles. Devs don't let devs make puzzles. And then after all this, it makes us sit on a really long elevator.
Not just a long elevator. A long elevator that goes into another robot fight.
Right, but I mean, these are pretty perfunctory at this point, right? There's really just not a whole lot to this, is there? You go through the designated portal point, and it gets you on its back, and then you jam the sword into its head. It is not, like, staggeringly original. It's the third variant on this exact same fight.
This entire third tower did not need to exist.
I quite agree. It could just be cut.
Like, there is absolutely nothing in this section that could not.
Just cut it from the game.
And it's like, yeah, like you're set up to think like that it even like shouldn't exist, because like it gives you the big expository plot dump